Hello everybody, this is Purge bringing you a first-person replay commentary. I'm going to be playing a game of Rikimaru today, and by today I mean in the past. So today is let's flesh out why this hero is situationally awesome, and cool things about him, and how to build him now that Tranquil Boots are nerfed. Actually that's not as important of a question to answer, because Tranquil Boots weren't really the go-to item boot on him anyways, and that's because treads are so fantastic on him, because they really do increase his attack speed by a lot, and the extra agility is really good because of backstab. But anyways, Rikimaru is a semi to hard carry, somewhere in there, but he's basically a carry that relies on some early ganking to snowball him into an obscene lead, or at least like a decent carry lead. He's very rarely drafted. Actually, he's pretty much never drafted now in the pro scene, but there was a period of time where he was actually very popular. Maybe not very popular, but there was a period of time where the hero was popular. That is not the hero I meant to click on. I'm going for purple. I guess it took me a really long time to draft my hero. But, yeah, basically the way that Riki was picked was a situational counter towards Anti-Mage. When Anti-Mage was at his prime, because Riki drops a smoke cloud, he does a ton of physical damage. And with the Diffusal Blade, he can just easily destroy an Anti-Mage repeatedly, many times. There it is. That was super late. Yeah, so yeah, Riki is really not played at all. He's arguably the most feared pub stomper hero in the entire game, at least at low levels, that is. And he shouldn't really be feared that much. He's not that scary, honestly. So a little bit about the hero. We'll talk about his skills. I don't know when the last time I made a video of Riki is, but I could check. It's probably been quite a while. I feel like it's been quite a while. At least the last time I made one, I don't think it was a real game. I think it was like a fan game or something. It's April 11th, actually, so it was a really long time ago. Unless I'm missing some other game. But anyways, I don't really like Riki that much personally. He's kind of fun to play. I had a lot of fun playing him this game, but generally I don't enjoy him that much. But let's talk about his skill set really quick, just so we can go over this again and explain exactly why he does terrorize low-level pubs so hard. His most important skill is backstab, out of all of his other ones. This one is the most crucial to him doing a ton of damage. If he attacks from behind, you get bonus damage based on how much agility you have. So that means you don't necessarily hit for a double damage, but you hit extremely hard. I have, 38 agility at the start of the game, which is kind of ridiculous. It gives me good attack speed, pretty darn good armor, but most importantly, if I have backstab, this eventually doubles my damage, more or less. If you just build agility items, it's like always having a double damage when their back is turned to you. So this means that when you're playing against a Riki, it's very important to realize when it's okay to turn your back to Riki and when it's not okay. A lot of the times, people will do it wrong. I was really surprised the creep waves hit it here. I think it's because the other guy didn't block, and we ended up blocking really hard. But backstab is very good. Keep in mind it does do physical damage, so in a way, a Timber Saw is actually a really good counter against Riki. Because Riki relies on your opponent to preferably have less armor or not be very survivable. Your second most important skill is going to be Smokescreen. This is a giant AoE that you drop, and it silences within the AoE. Stopped by magic immunity. So a BKB, if you get smokescreened, you can BKB and escape. And it also gives mischance, and also a moderate slow, 25% slow. It's not that good a slow, but it usually will let you get a couple extra hits in, essentially. So, and his second skill is Blink Strike. This is kind of similar to what, it's actually pretty much like what Phantom Assassin does, except it does bonus damage immediately when you blink, which does magic damage. So it's a little bursty. You can blink, and then then you just right-click. So it doesn't give attack speed, but it gives damage instead. So that's the offset. But it's very similar to what PA has in terms of blink. So keep that in mind. I really should have been hitting right there. I was really sad that I actually didn't grab Smokescreen at level 2 instead of Blink Strike. If I would have had Smokescreen there was a okay chance that we would have been able to kill the Timber Saw. So I was a little unhappy with my decision making there. But anyways, you should almost always grab Backstab at level 1 or level 2 because the bonus damage is really strong. I decided here to buy a boots. I also had random gold, so I got extra regen. I talked about this in the starter game that I made yesterday, or the video that I made yesterday. Same principle applies. Lots of extra regen is really useful for a carry in a safe lane, especially if you're against a hero like Timber Saw. And again, keep in mind that Timber Saw oftentimes is going to have a lot of extra armor because of his third skill, reactive armor. So that means that Riki is kind of countered by Timber Saw, at least in the laning stage. It does mean that my damage output is not that amazing towards him, so we'll keep that in mind. Always prioritizing last hits over denies, of course. And if I can get free attacks on him, I will do that. So, also important. So one thing that I can grab to give me a bit more lane control against a Timbersaw in the early game is a Orb of Venom. And this is actually a pretty common Riki item. The reason it's kind of nice is because it applies a slow to your opponents. My smoke was a little late here. I also canceled one animation just now. But look how much damage I'm doing. It's actually very little. I knew there was very low chance of me securing that kill, so I decided to back. We didn't communicate super good, me and the line here, so if we could have communicated better, I would have dropped the smoke cloud at a better time, perhaps, and we would have been able to maybe get a kill, but it didn't work out, so. Fortunately, I was clicking on something there.
No.
But yeah, usually when you're level 3, you want to have at least one of every skill, because they can be useful for different reasons. The main reason you grab Blink Strike in the early game is because it more often than not will save you. If you're getting ganked, you can blink to your allies or creeps, similar to how you can do it with the PA. So if you're worried about getting ganked, being able to blink to your allies is really important. So keep that in mind. If I'm playing a Riki, by the way, and I have complete free farm in my lane, I almost always am going to finish treads immediately because the extra attack speed and the extra agility is extremely powerful and gives you tons of offensive potential. So usually I will go treads first. But in this game versus the Timbersaw, who basically will never leave lane, I don't think going treads first is the right build. And even right here, for example, he's already just done, he did one spin on me and it did 150 pure damage or 150 magic damage or whatever, and that's a huge HP detriment to me. And Riki actually has pretty low strength gain. 2 is actually not bad, but my early strength is pretty crappy, so you do have to be fairly careful against a hero like Timbersaw. So I'm just going to continue. I thought we were maybe going to go in on this, so I decided to blink forward, and then he did a moderate amount of damage. Very wisely for him, he's actually turning and right-clicking, and this is something that you should do most of the time that you play against a Riki, and why you shouldn't be scared of this hero. It's because as a hero, as a hero, Riki actually has really bad damage if you just turn and you right-click him. Like, there's not that much that I can do to a Timbersaw if I'm hitting him in the face. I do 59 damage, and that's it. If you don't turn your back, then you don't take the bonus or double damage, more or less. So, by just turning and right-clicking me there, Timbersaw basically said, alright, I'm going to miss 25% of the attacks, or 40% of the attacks that I throw at you, but you're only going to do weak little damage. And then as soon as the smoke cloud ends, he can use his spells or whatever. And this is most of the time, this is what you need to do when you're playing against a Rikimaru. You have to know when it's time to run and when it's time to right-click. And in most cases, it's always time to right-click. Almost always, in almost all cases. And again, this is just because Riki doesn't do any damage if you don't turn around. So unless there's, it's kind of like Bloodseeker. Like when Bloodseeker ruptures you, it's usually time to run, but that's not always the case. So anyways, I've got my Orb of Venom now. I'm gonna go over to the side shop quick. I'm gonna put some attacks in on him because I do have a slow. Put the smoke cloud into the position where he's planning to run to, trying to do as much damage as possible. And I was able to get the kill. So that worked out pretty nice. And we lucked out, don't end up dying either, so cool. Attack moving really important, of course. And I do like maxing out backstab first, especially if my lane is contested. You're very rarely going to need to use the blink strike. I used it last as my last ditch effort to get a kill, basically. I also gave my lion a tango. I'm going to use the tango, and then I'm going to buy a ring of health. And this is going to give me a lot more lane control. And lane control meaning that I won't completely run out of HP and then have to play like a sissy because Timbersaw's in the lane. Like, Timbersaw's 6 already, I believe. Yeah, he is. This is really scary, especially as a Rikimaru, because I only have so much HP. And in fact, my HP is really, really low right now. I tried to blink the lion just now, which is why that went weird. But I kind of almost died here. Really did. So anyways, by having a ring of health, essentially I know that I will be a lot more survivable in lane, or at least I can keep my HP towards the full area. So the problem with buying a ring of health is you actually have to build it into something, though. In almost all cases, you don't want to just buy a ring of health and sit on it. We actually thought we were getting ganked at this point, I believe. I don't remember why exactly, but we knew there were a bunch of heroes here. Continue to try to last hit. And now we are getting dived. I was hoping he would run past and I'd be able to sneak by. I was able to dodge the waveform at least. These scrubs dusted me. I'm not even level 6. What a mistake, right? Alright, and now I kind of have to juke. I maybe should have just ran past towards the secret shop. I was a little unsure. But now this is going to force them to converge on me. This is a moderate mistake from me. I think I should have just ran into the jungle, perhaps, rather than trying to juke under the tower. I think that was a moderate mistake. I essentially could have ran away into the jungle, but I thought maybe I was going to be able to get away with it by just sitting on the bot lane and it would have been fine, but it didn't end up being like that. So it was a mistake by me. It's a little too overly optimistic about how well I could survive a dive. But yeah, this skill build's very common. One blink strike, one smoke screen, and max out backstab. That way, if you do end up getting yourself in a position where you can backstab your opponents, then you will end up doing a lot of damage. A little buff to Riki recently: if you use items, you do not become visible. So invisibility, that means you can tread switch and things like that without becoming visible. You can also use, I don't know, there's not that many items. Diffusal Blade, for example, is probably a good example of an item that you could use while you're invisible and not reveal yourself. But in most cases, it's not really that big of a buff. It's more just like a small feature. This is like the worst gank attempt I've ever seen. So, no doubt in my mind that was going to miss. Considering the trees weren't there. So that was pretty funny. That was Ken, great Smash player. Not so good at Dota just yet. He'll get there someday.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
So as you guys might have guessed at this point, I'm actually planning to build a vanguard on Rikimaru. So I'm going to send the courier over there. We actually don't have a flying courier just yet. We're still on regular. And also keep in mind that the Morphling can't see me at this point. Again, he's going to trade hits with me. Very wise of him. As soon as I hit him in the back, he turns and faces me, and then my trade becomes less efficient. If he would have ran away for 3 seconds and I would have gotten 4 hits in there, I possibly would have killed him. And you just have to, again, same thing. You have to understand that Riki only does good damage if you hit him in the back. And every single time that I'm hitting somebody in the back here, they're playing it correctly. They turn and hit me directly, and all of a sudden I'm taking a creep wave, and I'm taking a right click from a hero that does more damage than me, and I can't really survive it as much. So let's talk about the Vanguard pick. I get flamed about the Vanguard at the end of the game, but let me explain why I think it's actually really good. All carries need some kind of a HP regen, especially right now, for example, in the metagame where dual lanes are very common, or at least your lane is going to be contested. It's really important to have some way to stay in your lane. And I just completely guaranteed that with my Vanguard purchase. My HP went from, how much is this going to be, 300? Or 250, sorry. My HP went from 700 to 950, which is a huge, huge increase. My smoke was pretty bad there. Looks like it's going to be okay, though. We were still able to kill the Morphling. But, I mean, being able to survive is, like, infinitely higher now for me. That's at least 1 nuke. So 1 nuke on their team is going to be just about nullified. A typical 300 damage nuke will do 225 damage, and that's going to be stopped by the extra HP I got. In addition, I can now have an 80% chance to damage block 40, which is a huge amount. Most people's right clicks right now, especially if we look at support heroes, hitting for 70, hitting for 70, hitting for 80, and all this stuff. So everybody's basically hitting for an amount that, so now I'm going to block half of the damage output, or I have a really good shot at blocking most of the damage out, or half of the damage output of the heroes that attack me. So it just really shoots up my survivability, and it also means that if they want to gank me, it's not nearly as easy as it was before. In the past, if I only had 700 HP, they could easily gank me with 2 heroes. Now they need 3, I would say, is pretty much the difference. And this is a huge impact. It means that one hero can't just like passively farm the lane and then somebody TPs in and I die, basically. So as soon as I finished my Vanguard, I wanted to get treads. Ailson talked about the timing of the treads versus the Vanguard when I played this game afterwards. If you're free farm, I don't think grabbing Vanguard first is correct. I think if you're free farm and you're having no trouble in your lane at all, you should grab treads first, because it gives you better pushing potential, it gives you better farming potential, it gives you better killing potential, and you're less likely to be ganked. If you're having trouble at all, you need the Ring of Health, and you can build that into the Vanguard pretty fast. Like, they do really have a lot of scary heroes, honestly. Timbersaw and Ember Spirit alone are pretty scary, and Morphling can also make some stuff happen. But the other thing that Vanguard allows me to do, even past lane control, I have survivability, I have HP regen, I have tons of damage block. It also lets me play more aggressively, and I personally like playing aggressively, and Vanguard definitely allows me to do that. Look, when I tread switch now, I have 1100 HP, and despite me not having really any other survivability items, I can now do just a ton of damage. And there we go. I dive tower. I don't care about it because I have 1100 HP. And they actually had heroes there. They didn't necessarily react super fast, but our damage output was great. So I also pick up a magic stick because extra mana bursts can be very useful. Riki's int gain is very bad at 1.3. This is almost as bad as Phantom Assassins, I believe. Just gonna blink in here, get some backstab damage in. Even with his big armor pickup, I'm doing pretty serious damage output. So at this point, it's just really important to right-click the heck out of everybody. Luckily for us, he missed his timber chain and he ends up dying there. So, and look how much more fearless I can be. For example, I ended that fight with about 600 HP. If I didn't have the vanguard, if I just would have gone like drums or something like that instead, I would have had probably like 200 or 300 less HP. And maybe if there was another hero there, that's like a nuke or a small decision adjustment, and I would be dead. So the vanguard, and look at my HP now. My HP is just about full again because I'm getting 6 HP. Yeah, 6 HP per second, which eventually is going to put me at full. This means that I never have to go back to base, essentially, if I don't run out of mana. And I can play more aggressive, and I can basically just hop in and do a lot of right clicks on somebody's backside, and hopefully just score kills. Because I hit really hard now. I'm doing double agility, or I'm getting 1.25. I'm basically hitting for a double damage on people's backs. Because 1.25 times 68 is probably pretty close, or if not a bit higher than 76. So I don't know. I really like the Vanguard, honestly. Like, I've played other Riki games where you play greedy, you don't get an HP regen item, but the problem with that is you end up losing some of your max HP, and then you're sitting at 80% of your total capacity, and when you get ganked, then you just die really fast. And that really frustrated me a lot, personally, when I played Riki in the past. I'm considering wearing them down a bit, but with the tombstone going down and Lion dying, it's definitely time for me to play safe. So that's one of the other alternatives. You could buy a drum. What a drum does is some of the similar things. It gives you more HP. If you're curious how much HP it gives 9 times 19, which is what, just under, it's like 180 minus 19, which is 161 HP. So a drum gives you 161 HP. It costs about the same as a Vanguard. So Vanguard gives you about 90 more HP, which is quite a bit. It also increases your damage block to be better, and it also gives you passive HP regen. And we can talk about the other stuff that drum gives you. It gives you int, which you don't really need on Riki, honestly. With all of my, like, even in the late game, I almost never need mana. A magic stick alone and a little bit of tread switching is enough mana by far. But drum gives you int, which I think is wasted. It gives you agility, which is really good. The strength is good. But it doesn't give you enough survivability. Drum is not bad, but again, it also doesn't give you HP regen. And the HP regen is super crucial for you being able to stay in lane. Like, I can tank creeps. Like, if you have a drum and you take a creep hit, that's honestly, it's a detriment to your health. It really is, because your HP regen is very, very low. I think Riki has a higher passive HP regen. There was a buff like a year ago for some melee carries to get a base 2 HP regen, but like, if you take creep damage, it takes you like 5 or 10 seconds to be able to come back from that. It's a lot. And luckily for me, I do insanely good right click, and that's even without a damage item. That's literally just treads and max backstab. I crush through that Ember Spirit. Ember Spirit's actually really weak to physical damage, so maybe he could be seen. If Ember Spirit ever becomes a problem, Riki is actually not a bad counter now that I think about it. But that worked out really, really easily for me. I also could have slowed that. Alright, there it goes. There's the slow. My slow's, or my stun's a little bit late. But again, I can play aggressive. I actually lost a lot of HP there, lost 600. It's going to come back slowly. It's only going to take, what, I have 600 and I get 6 per second, so it'll take 100 seconds or so, which is like a minute and a half for me to hit full HP again. There's a lot of fighting going on top, so I decided to TP. Damn, I could have had that kill.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Maybe we still get the kill. No, as soon as he notices me, I'm sure he backs. If I would have gone to the right, I could have gotten the kill for sure. So yeah, I just really like what Vanguard allows me this game. It gives me HP. I haven't gone back to base, and I'm almost full HP again. For example, I was at 600, now I'm at 900 and climbing. And the extra tankiness that it gives me is just so great. I don't have to be afraid to initiate, which is something that's really nice with Riki. Because you don't have that much control, you're actually very, very squishy at almost all stages of the game. So, we figured they had a sentry here, so I was considering when to initiate. And this is when we realized there was definitely a sentry. And the fight was happening.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
That was so cool. I think he's out of mana now. So, pretty good fight for us. Really good fight. I also finished my Diffusal Blade. If you really want to be greedy, you can also get Diffusal before your Vanguard. You can just go Treads into Diffusal Blade, but I don't know. Oh yeah, one of the other early builds that people sometimes do with Riki is I go Vlad's instead. I'm not a huge fan of that build because Vlad's gives you very little personally with your hero. It's actually a very common noob build, but it has some merit at higher levels because it covers some of the things that Vanguard does, which is, again, it gives you sustainability because you have lifesteal, and it also gives you mana regen, which is kind of nice. So that was pretty funny. So yeah, there's some things that are good about the Vlads, but it doesn't give you HP. It just gives you 5 armor, which is not really that much because early game nukes are going to crush you anyways. And the HP regen and the lifesteal are good. They'll keep your HP up, but it's not as good as a Vanguard by any means. Not even close to as much survivability in the early game. So I really think the Vanguard is the better build to go. It just allows you to make better decisions and things. And I got the Diffusal fairly fast afterwards anyways because I was able to snowball based on kills. I didn't farm super heavy, but I'm able to get kills. So anyways, let's not talk about the early game anymore. I think I've harped on all that enough, but I think it's a really strong point to make, and very important point to make, because a lot of people still hate on Vanguard, and I don't think it's right, in all situations. Vanguard is one of the least built items right now, but it still has some utility. I mean, there was a time when Vanguard was the most popular item in the game. Everybody got Vanguards, even on ranged heroes, so it's honestly not bad, I promise, guys.
Radiant's top tower has fallen.
That guy blew up. That was a Dagon Blast, after a decrep, if you're wondering why that guy died so fast. But this is the mid-game stage of Riki. So this is my Lanian stage went okay, and I've got a Diffusal Blade. And Diffusal Blade is the core item to have on Riki. And the reason is because it allows you to gank very, very easily. Smoke Cloud is good, but it only does so much. The things that it doesn't do is it doesn't keep them silenced forever. It only keeps them silenced for 2, maybe 3 seconds, and that's usually not enough time to get a kill. So the reason you grab the Diffusal Blade is because it stacks so well with the Cloud. You drop the Cloud, I did it on the Dragonite over there, and then you Diffusal Blade them, and then they stand still essentially for a second. It buys you a couple extra seconds of disable. Or of silence, basically. So if you're ever playing against an anti-mage and you get your Diffusal Blade really fast versus the anti-mage, you should be rinse repeat killing him. That was very confusing.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower has fallen.
I didn't actually think that guy was going to go aggressive. I thought for sure that he was going to run away, and he didn't. He tried to go ham, and he died because of it. I think these guys were really tilted this game, by the way. So, usually in the mid-game when you're playing Riki, I was going to talk about this when I was actually doing this, but usually in the mid-game when you're playing Riki, you actually go looking for kills, and that's one thing that I did do. I went to the mid lane, and I went through the jungles, then I checked all the jungle camps, and then I went over here to look for a solo kill. And the reason you do this is because your solo kill power is so good, because of the Diffusal Blade. So, when you get the Diffusal Blade, you should be able to get a lot of solo kills. So I'm going to go look for the Ember Spirit now, see if he's in the jungle. If he does end up farming any of these camps, I should be able to get a kill. I actually apparently got scared, or didn't feel like committing. I should have continued to look, though. I don't know why I decided to back off. I mean, they do have a lot of dead heroes. Oh, that's right, because my Yasha was coming. My Yasha was coming, and I didn't want it to fly into the jungle, because then it would be obvious that we were actually there. So, Yasha is usually built after the Diffusal Blade. Going to Manta Style and Riki is really strong. It gives you a second way to remove dust. The first is Diffusal Blading yourself. If somebody dusts you, you Diffusal Blade yourself, it removes the dust. And you should be able to get killed. And now it was the point where I was like, well, where the hell are the enemy heroes? Because if anybody was farming the jungle, I would solo kill them. Doesn't matter what hero it is at this point. That's so cool. I love that. I don't know why, but the Ember Spirit has just been sitting at high ground. I think he gave up or something. I'm not really sure. It looks a whole lot like he gave up. Which is probably why I didn't find anybody. I was like, there's 5 heroes on the map. There's 5 heroes in this game. Why can't I find any of them in the jungle? But that guy may survive. Okay, he gets power shot. Riki is one of the few Diffusal Blade heroes that you actually don't want to upgrade the Diffusal Blade to Diffusal Blade 2. You've probably seen me do that on heroes like PL before, where I'll upgrade it really fast, and that's because those heroes are illusion-based heroes. So they really need the extra burn damage. The burn damage when you level this up goes from 20 to 36, and Riki doesn't really want to level that up. His most important reason for getting the Diffusal Blade is it gives agility, which gives him more backstab damage, and it also gives him an extra slow, which is very important towards securing kills and things.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Was not a huge fan of that guy's initiation. At this point, we just have such a big gold advantage that it's quite easy for us to score kills. Someone force staffed me forward, which helped a lot. and I should be able to clean up at this
Dire's
point.
bottom
So,
tower is under attack.
yeah, we're gonna win, basically. I'm basically at the point where I've snowballed completely out of control. My CS is high, but it's not like ridiculous or anything. More importantly, I'm sure my net worth and my EXP per minute is just really high. Yeah, my EXP per minute is really high. It's 610. So, this is basically how you win games with Riki. You want to snowball off of enemy heroes. And there are obviously a lot of things that went into our win, but I think being able to be aggressive and strong attack moving is really important with this hero. So, this is like complete... I just really wanted to make this video because I wanted to say that Vanguard is legit on Riki. And number two, that this is what you should be doing with Riki games, and it should be snowballing. Even when people aren't stupid and they actually do end up avoiding turning their backs to you constantly, it's oftentimes still... it's like not... This is like a higher level Riki, basically, than what I'm sure a lot of people will see. Most people will just turn their backs to Riki and they'll be like, whatever, I'll just die, I guess. But... like, I three-shot the Ember Spirit now. I don't know. I just really like the Vanguard. It felt so good this game. It felt so good to me. In a totally normal way. Alright, Diffusal Bladed him. I don't think the illusions get the backstab, but they do get the mana drain, so that's cool. It only works for, if you get a Manta style with the Diffusal Blade, it only works for your illusions. For your melee illusions, not your ranged. Ranged don't work. And now I decided to buy a Diffusal Blade 2.
Monster kill.
Yeah, at this point the game is over. There's no way that they can survive. I've snowballed too hard. I can solo gank any of them, and I also have good carry potential. So unlike a hero like Bounty Hunter, Riki scales a lot better into a hard carry, whereas a hero like Bounty Hunter is a lot more solo kill stuff. So my right click gets really crazy with the backstab, since I'm basically doing double damage. I mean, I have 150 agility right now with the Manta style as well as the Diffusal Blade. By the way, sometimes you'll go BKB before the Manta style, especially if you're having a little bit of a rough game, or if they have a lot of stuns. You'll be going BKB here in case instead of the Manta, sometimes before Yasha even. But this game I didn't need to because I was far enough ahead, so keep that in mind.
Monster kill.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
I decided to Diffuse the Blade one-shot the illusions so that he didn't have an easy escape.
Godlike double kill. Holy shit. Triple kill.
Just keep dying,
Dire's
guys.
middle tower is under attack.
Godlike.
Dire's middle barracks are under
So
attack.
fun.
Hell cannot hold me.
Here comes the tilt chat pretty soon here. Alright, so I think that's about it for Riki.
Radiant's top tower is
I really
under
like
attack.
Vanguard. I think you can honestly get Vanguard on a lot of melee carries that have some regen problems. Other carries that kind of fit into the same situation of needing some survivability early. Alchemist is not horrible to get a Vanguard early, or at least a
Dire's
Vitality
middle
booster.
barracks has
PL
fallen.
in the past has gone Vanguard first. Gives a lot more HP to your illusions. It makes you a lot more survivable.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And also,
Dire's middle
what's the other
tower
one?
has fallen.
Oh yeah, your illusions I believe also get damage blocked. Did I can't remember if this was confirmed. I think that was wrong. I said that in another video and I said I was unsure, and I believe somebody sent me a tweet and they said I was wrong. So I don't think your illusions do get damage blocked. I think it's the other way around. You can actually damage block illusions, which is not that unusual.
Dire's ancient is under attack.
No, now what?
That's another build possibility. Mask of Madness is an option
Victory.
into Basher, but it doesn't give you very much survivability. So, and those items are also really expensive. Like, yeah, you can kill people instantly, but my main point is that with my first 2,500 gold, or my first 2,700 gold, all I bought was an Orb of Venom, a Vanguard, and a Boots, and that's it. And all of a sudden, it's like almost immediately at the start of the game. That's very, very early in the game. I can go from being pretty easy to kill to being difficult to kill. And that gives you so much space to carry and farm, basically. So that big of a difference, it's almost like a Midas in a way, right? It's not quite the same, but the things that the Vanguard gives you is really good for the hero. It gives you the opportunity to do damage. It gives you the survivability to not get ganked, and even dying once less in the early game can honestly make a big difference. So you can look at it as a Midas in that way. Rather than being a farming item, it's preventing you from dying in a situation that is mostly out of your control. Like if I had a Vanguard when I was against those 3 heroes, there's an okay chance that I would have survived, or maybe I would have had an extra 5 or 10 seconds of juking, but you know, something like that. So I don't know. Don't completely sell Vanguard out. It's not even bad sometimes on ranged heroes. Like a hero like Viper can sometimes use Vanguard effectively to really just tank up heavily in the early game and end up doing a lot more damage as a result. So there's a lot of cases like that. Don't be afraid of Vanguard. It's beautiful sometimes. Riki is one of those times. And yeah. I mean, maybe this wasn't like the best example of how to snowball on Riki, because upon watching the replay again, it seemed very, very easy. As Pugna also crapped on his lane. So I guess we can blame Aosin for this video not being maybe as thorough as he wanted, but there's really not a whole lot of Riki games that go in between. The only other things that I maybe didn't cover that I could have is Ghost Scepters. In the late game, Riki is semi-countered by Ghost Scepters, but you can counter that using Diffusal Blade charges, so there's some utility there. And after the BKB and the Manta style, what would I get next? Probably a Butterfly. Stack up more agility, give some evasion to myself and my illusions, and even just right-click even harder. So they really couldn't do that much. It definitely seemed like they started throwing after they got a little disheartened, and Timbersaw was really upset that I got a Vanguard because he thinks it's terrible, but I really don't think it is. I really think it was appropriate, especially versus a Timbersaw. That hero has like the most lane contest out of any offlane hero. It's like you just stand there and he throws a Chakram it does 200 pure damage for 100 mana, and it's so hard to lane against. So you really do need some HP regen against that hero, I think. And the extra HP as well helped a lot, because then it lowers his chance of bursting. So he can flame all he wants, but I think he's completely wrong. So, alright, I think that's it for Riki. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go try out Vanguard on your next pub games. Again, if your lane is going well, go Treads first. If it's a little scary, if they have good heroes, then go Vanguard first. And try to get that up really fast. Obviously, getting good last hits is important, but you guys should be able to handle that, even if you're bad at last hitting, because backstab should give you a lot more last hitting power. Always go to the back of the creep before you hit it. So I think that's about it. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll try to get some different content up soon. I might stream tomorrow. I was going to stream today, but then we played scrims, so I played like 5 hours of scrims this afternoon. So hopefully tomorrow I'll stream. No promises, but I'll try to get that up. And oh yeah, Yogscast stream again is on Thursday. I think I mentioned in that last video I made. It's on Thursday. Sunsfan and Neil are also going to be there. So it's going to be a bunch of Dota personalities. It'll be Sunsfan, Neil, Pure and Flax, myself, and Parvis from the Yogscast, and I don't know how many of the other Yogs people, but it should be fun. All right, I think that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it, and I'll see you later. Bye.